2.
Hello and welcome to the THC show. My name is Neil Magnuson and I'm your host, and this is the show where we look for the truths in the world that we should be concerned about. We try to find some hope about what we might be able to do and some things to do to make that hope valid. On the show today, we're going to have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. As always, join me for the 420 session. Jerry Martin will be here for the Martin Medical Moment. And very thrilled to have on my show as a guest today, Jen Nelson, who's been an integral part of the Cannabis Substitution Program and now the Healing Wave Dispensary over the last number of years. So I see that the Green Party of Canada has a new leader, and that's amazing and that's good. And I wish the Greens all the luck coming up in the next election, whenever that is federally. The Green Party has historically been more supportive of our issues to do with cannabis than the other parties, even though the Liberals ran on a election platform of legalizing cannabis. I feel that our fate would be a lot better off in the hands of the Greens than it would in the hands of the Liberals, because the Liberals' version of legalization has been far from what we've been fighting for all these years and far from what the people of Canada deserve. Legalization, for anybody who doesn't know, in Canada means that the average person is able to have cannabis and purchase cannabis from government stores, the government stores that are provided by licensed producers, all coming through the federal government and then distributed through the provincial regimes. And in the process of that legalization, there's still criminal penalties for people who are growing or selling cannabis outside of the government's basic cartel that they've set up. And that means that, you know, for example, at our 420 rallies here in Vancouver, where we have several hundred vendors that are all there trying to be part of a legal cannabis marketplace, they're all still criminals in this world. And people that would like to grow cannabis, and lots of people like to grow cannabis. Lots of people like to grow cannabis for other people. Lots of people like to grow cannabis because it helps them with paying their rent and their mortgages. Lots of reasons why people would want to grow cannabis. And here in what's supposed to be a free country, people should be allowed to grow cannabis, or blueberries or tomatoes or grapes or even blackberries or whatever it is they want. They should be allowed to grow it, because after all, who owns us and the ability of us to use nature? I don't think that that's part of what being free is about. If somebody can tell you that you can't do something that involves growing a plant because you think that plant might help you feel better or help you with your aches and pains or whatever it is you'd like to grow that plant for. Maybe you just like the fruit. Maybe you just like the way the flower looks. Who knows? But I do know that if you want to grow a plant, you should be able to grow a plant. Shouldn't matter what that plant is. Shouldn't matter that if you eat that plant, it's going to kill you. Because if you eat most plants, they're going to kill you. If you eat too many of any plant, it's probably going to kill you. So, you know, it's nobody's right but ours. It's nobody's business but ours as to what we do with our bodies and with nature. Nobody owns our bodies but us. Nobody owns nature. And so this whole thing about the legalizing, not legalizing, prohibiting, restricting, all that about cannabis is just nothing but absolute wrong. It is as wrong as can be. It is from Wrongville, and it's never been right. It is not a crime to have plants, not a crime to grow plants, not a crime to sell plants, not now, never was, never could be. Just because some out-of-control corrupt government says that it's illegal and it's now a crime, that doesn't mean it's a crime. That means they're fucking criminals, because they don't even know what a crime is, or they're trying to fool you about what a crime is. Because a crime is a serious thing that involves some very fundamental basic ideas about actually understanding in knowledge in your mind, mens rea, that you are going to commit some damage to somebody, and then actually going ahead and doing it. They have to prove that you did it. They had to prove that you thought about doing it ahead of time and that you knew you were going to do harm. All of that is supposed to be happening before it's a crime, including meeting your victim, including whatever penalty they put on you being based on how much damage that you did. So, you know, any reasonable thinking person would understand that having some plants, growing some plants, selling some plants, using plants, unless you are harming somebody else in a significant way, and you know you're doing it, you are not a criminal, and shame on the governments for calling us criminals and treating us like criminals for all this time and still doing it today. So I don't know how we can change this political system, but maybe we can rattle it up by voting differently. I don't know. Maybe parties will come along and they'll tell us that they're going to do good things and we could vote for them, and maybe they would down the road. Otherwise, well, write letters, make phone calls, talk amongst yourselves. Don't put up with the tyranny. Don't put up with the bullying. Recognize it for what it is. Understand how valuable your freedom is and the right to be able to choose for yourself is. And let's not lose it all to these corporately controlled public servants that we're paying. Let's not allow this to get worse and worse as we go down the road. Let's try to make it better. That's about all we can do. So I went to visit Jenny Kwan's office today because I thought maybe she could help us. By the way, we are again broadcasting from the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Program, medical cannabis low barrier access dispensary here on the downtown east side of Vancouver. And we've been here for about 4 months now. And all along, we've been having issues with the City of Vancouver's licensing department. We have the support of the one councillor, and then unanimously voted, who got the other councillors to unanimously vote for a motion to allow for low barrier access. But the licensing department has been a stickler for us for a while, and in letters sent to us and the landlord, caused our landlord, for fear of being in trouble with the city, to eventually file for a court date. We have a court date coming up of October 19th. You don't get to go to court these days. It's just a Zoom meeting between our lawyer and their lawyer. And we're hoping that that date can be pushed back a little bit now. There's some new information that's come in. We actually got a fantastic letter that I'm going to read to you a little later on in the program from Rebecca Bly, the councillor that had the motion passed. A very supportive letter endorsed by Jean Swanson and other councillor in the city, but apparently still not enough to be from the licensing department reassuring our landlord and his lawyer that the city will not come after them. So we still need that. So today I went to Jenny Kwan's office to see if maybe I could get some support for her in our application, because our application is a federal one, as we're going for a Section 140 exemption, much like the Compassion Club is, and that's all being done through the federal ministry. So I thought, federal politics being what they are, it would be a good idea maybe to have Jenny Kwan speak for us. And so I went to her office, but her office was closed because of the whole COVID thing. And with the licensing department, and with that letter, I called the licensing department this morning. I tried to talk to Mark McClellan. He's the licensing manager there. But I'd like to go down there and speak to him in person and take the letter with me. But of course, City Hall is closed as well. And so that's all very frustrating that because of this pandemic, the response from our public servants, including other things, has been to close down their offices and restrict our access to them. And it's been very difficult and frustrating for us here as we're trying to continue to exist so that we can continue to help the people that we're helping here. And we really don't have good access to our public servants. I was very happy to hear a letter, or at least the remarks of Dr. Bonnie Henry. Just in the last few days, she's come out and commented on things to do here. And my opinion all along, if you've seen previous episodes where I've mentioned it, that the response needs to be very considered, because the response to this pandemic could easily be as bad or worse than the pandemic itself, than the virus itself. There's obviously things that we can be doing and should be doing, and there's obviously those that we should be protecting more than others, but many of the responses of government have been extremely, extremely harmful to people. The suicide rates are through the roof, and the divorce rates are through the roof, and mental health issues are going crazy. And there's a lot of people that are living very panicked lives, and you can see it on their faces in behind the masks, and you can see it by their behavior. And so that it was very, very encouraging to hear Dr. Bonnie Henry come out and reassure people of a number of different things, and talk about the nature of the virus and what it is that we should and should not be doing. And with respect to masks, it was good to hear her say very clearly that masks are detrimental to people's health, that wearing masks for long periods of time reduces your oxygen rate, which has all sorts of complications, but that masks are not necessary to be worn unless you are in large groups. And I would add that large groups indoors would be a place where you would probably want to wear a mask if this virus is present, because outdoors, as she said in her statement, is not an issue for people as well. As long as you're not in really close contact with people, and if you're social distancing and mostly washing your hands on a regular basis, that's all we need to do. Except the other things we need to do, and she got into this, was how we need to not be panicked. We need to be calm. We need to not allow life to just be taken from us and allow for everything to just stop for us. We need to live our lives. We need to have our friends. We need to do things that make us feel good. And we don't need to be panicked all the time. So good on her for coming out and saying that. I do appreciate that, because here in Vancouver, where, you know, and actually British Columbia, there's very few cases, although they're up over 100 a day now, but that's a little bit misleading, because since the days when we had them down 20s, below 10, 0, and those things, the testing was not as efficient as it is now. They've more than tripled the amount of testing that's being done. They've gotten very efficient at understanding where to do the testing. And they are finding these cases still, because it is still prevalent in some areas of our society. It's just not prevalent in our main communities for the most part. People are not catching it at grocery store. Bonnie Henry talked about how it's not being transferred through food. Nobody's bringing it into their house with on their shoes and catching it. You know, there's a lot of different speculation and even science that says you can, you could, you may, in certain circumstances, under laboratory conditions, pass it this way and that way. But the reality of it is that it is not something that we need to be afraid of to the degree that it seems our public is afraid of it at this point. The reactions of many people with respect to people not wearing masks, even in places where you shouldn't need to wear a mask. If you're properly social distancing, you don't need to wear a mask. Yet that's certainly not the understanding and the passionate belief of many people in our society, as they're being scorned in different ways in different places and not allowed into different places. And I heard, you know, taken off of our transit. Our transit has mandatory masks at all times. Well, if you're not in close proximity to other people on transit, many of the buses are empty, many of the SkyTrains are not full, then there's no need to enforce mandatory masks. Ontario, mandatory masks everywhere all the time. It is not healthy. It is not right. It is not the right of public servants to demand these things. People should be smart about what they do. And if you're in close crowds of people, you should be putting masks on, I would suggest, at this time, based on what seems to be going on in many of the communities around North America and the world. But when it's not the case, when you don't need to wear a mask, it's not healthy to be wearing it all the time. We have people coming into our store that are suffering from health effects because of wearing masks, and the doctors are even telling them that. And so that's my little ramble about that. I'm not anti-mask. I'm simply wanting reason to be out there so that people become smart about what they do. And, you know, you look a bit ridiculous when you're driving around in your car by yourself with a mask on, or when you're jogging down the road close to nobody with a mask on, or even waiting all by yourself at a bus stop with a mask on. Masks are mandatory on transit, but why would you put that mask on if you're standing all by yourself until the bus gets there, until you need to step onto the bus? So anyway, my 2 cents, just my opinion. Not a scientist, not a doctor. We've had some interesting developments with respect to our dispensary here on the downtown east side. Just a recap of how we got here. This is part of the Cannabis Substitution Program that ran out of Vancouver for over 3.5 years, where myself and an amazing team of volunteers would get together twice a week for the last 2 years, once a week for the year before that, and we would give out care packs of high-dose edibles to people, with the idea being that high-dose edibles are effective in helping people get off of opioids and effective in helping people then use the high-dose edibles for what they were using the opioids for. Because in most cases, in the vast majority of cases, the 90 percentile of cases, people that are suffering with addiction to opioid or involved in opioid misuse syndrome are not just addicted to opioids because they started using them, used them for a period of time, and now they just can't get through withdrawal. The vast majority of people who get addicted to these substances are using it to deal with pain. Pain from either workplace accidents, accidents within, their life, or trauma that they've suffered in many cases, much of it childhood trauma. There's a number of different reasons why people are suffering. And people that are suffering, in many cases, get put onto or turn to opioids to try to help with that. And then it can be very difficult to get off of opioids. And here what's happened is that with the medical profession cutting down on the amount of opioids they'll allow people to have to try to curb those addiction issues, many people get cut off before they're ready to be cut off. They then seek opioids from friends and family and eventually the street. And in many cases, that's who's on the downtown east side of Vancouver, struggling with poverty and addiction and this pain and suffering that goes along with those kind of issues. So for the last 6 years, we've had a poisoned drug supply here where fentanyl has gotten into the opioids that people were taking. And it's become an everyday occurrence that people are dying in British Columbia, Alberta, all across North America. The opioid crisis in British Columbia is killing far more people than the pandemic. Same with Alberta. The numbers of people dying from the overdose crisis in Alberta is double what it is for COVID. And this has been going on since about 2016. And in 2016 was right at the same time that we had about 150 different dispensaries in Vancouver. And the city of Vancouver, prior to the federal legalization, decided that they would regulate these dispensaries and in so doing actually eliminate all but about 30 of them. And part of it was taking away a number of their revenue streams, and that included high-dose edibles. And for me, with my understanding, thanks to working in the herb school for a few years back on the downtown east side in 2004 and 5 and 6, I knew that high-dose edibles could work for people to get through withdrawal and then help them with the pain that they're suffering and using opioids for. So I started a program, and that's the Cannabis Substitution Program. And we ran that at Vandu for all of that time until finally 2.5 years in, the city passed a motion saying they would allow for low barrier access to cannabinoids for the opioid crisis. We met with the city and had an agreement that we would come up with a model that they would approve, and that we would find a storefront and rent that storefront and start doing that. And it took us about a year to find a space, but in a collaboration with the Healing Wave Dispensary, 419 warning, we have put together this low barrier access dispensary here, and now we're just seeking government approval from public servants to be able to continue to do the amazing good that we have seen happen here with our program. Dr. M.J. Malloy at UBC has put together a number of different studies on how the effectiveness of cannabis is, especially with high-dose edibles, with addressing opioid misuse. And the jury is in, the story is told, there's no doubt about it. The truth is cannabis, especially high-dose edibles, can be effective for getting off of opioids and for substituting their use. So that's what's going on. Here we are. And in every show that we've done, we have a 420 session, and I'm always pleased to have Glenn Wells come and join me for that. And what do you got to say today, Glenn? Good to see you.
How you doing, Neil?
Pretty good.
I brought you a nice joint.
I see this joint you brought me here from an anonymous joint donator.
Yes.
You know who you are?
Purple Dream.
Purple Dream.
It was really nice when I was cutting it up. I said, I gotta bring Neil some of this.
and
I brought Neil some too.
I'm living the dream.
You're living the dream.
I'm living the dream. This is it. Nick,
this is your dream.
Chris, who runs our door today,
yes,
he's living the dream in purple.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, look. Can we show Chris there? So, Chris is living the dream there. He's got the purple theme going on.
Purple and green.
I mean, I'll tell you, his mother must dress him because she really knows what she's doing.
It's
there.
almost indica
fashionista. And so now we got the purple dream, anonymous donation here. So there you go.
There you go.
There are synchronicities in life.
And there wasn't even a memo.
There's no memo.
It just worked out that way.
So you wanted to you wanted to show some people some of our stuff there for this session.
Yeah, we can maybe spotlight one of your things. You get one of those little microscope cameras. And
Damien,
Anil,
can you give me the $1 gram, please?
Oh, there you go.
Anil.
Wow.
I want to talk about this.
Yeah, let's talk about this then. Look at that.
Yeah.
Where can you buy a gram for $1?
It's actually C-Warp.
Is it?
It's C-Warp, yeah.
It's C-Warp.
And you know, I mean, it's not the most decent of bud in there for sure, but it is bud. And as far as decent goes, it smokes really good.
Yeah.
And it gets you really high, and people like it.
Yeah.
So,
Seaworm.
Seaworm.
but you know,
Yeah,
the
works good,
cannabinoids are there. So there we go. We have $1 a gram. So I'm living the dream here at the.
That's $28
at the
for an
Healing
ounce,
Wave.
people. Work out
Yeah.
so you get an ounce for $28.
Under $30 for an ounce. How about that?
Yeah.
So I'm really, really pleased to be able to have that.
444 pounds.
So I think we're going to be able to have that for a while here, and then you know, as next year progresses at the Healing Wave with the Serious Hope Foundation, we're really hoping that our public servants are going to allow us to take control of our supply and start producing cannabis for ourselves. I mean, we've got to, you know, this is just what we're doing here in the store. But, you know, we should be able to grow this amazing plant and get it to the people that need it and help them with all the things that it can help with. And I think $1 a gram is here to stay.
Well, that'd be great.
And yeah.
Oh, wow. And you were talking about COVID there in the case. I think our positivity rate is only 1.03. And they're saying that if you have COVID, you're giving it to less than one person when you come in contact with them. So that's
these
really
days,
good.
everybody's being careful anyway.
Yeah, that's really good for our province to be able to.
So, Mary, how about getting me the Girl Scout cookies, please? I have this wonderful crew of volunteer staff here that help us out. That's what you just rolled?
Thank you, Dee.
So this is the other end of the spectrum here at the Healing Wave.
There we go.
Can I find a nice bud in there?
Very tasty.
This is the Girl Scout cookies.
Yes.
And that is some beautiful bud.
Yeah, right up there. Yeah.
Right up there. You can't smell that through the camera yet, but
I can't smell it with all the doobies going around here either.
but that is really, really fine. That is very nice. We're very happy to have that.
And how much is that one?
$6 a gram.
$6 a gram.
That's as high as it's ever going to get. It'll never get any higher than that here.
There you go.
And that's too high in my opinion. But, you know, obviously not based on what's going on in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But based on, you know, what it takes to bring a plant to market. It does cost quite a bit more in some cases to bring cannabis to market. If you're producing connoisseur cannabis,
Yeah.
you know, and indoor cannabis is not cheap to produce.
No.
But I think that $6 a gram is where
Have
it
you
should
had
end.
much outdoor come to the store yet? Because it is that time.
Well,
of
the
the
Sea
season.
Warp is outdoor, but that's the only outdoor we've had here so far.
So you might get a few more.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing evolution of trying to find what's best for people and trying to find the best price for people.
And the best food gauge is people, right? When they come back and say they like this and stuff like that, we got to get more of that then, right?
It's all about responding to the community needs. So how's CannaMatch.ca going?
Good. Good. I was advertising it today with a meme that said "data stoner."
I see.
It's quite appropriate.
So if you're a cannabis-friendly person,
yeah, and you want to meet somebody, or if you want to fall in love and they just smoke pot, then you go to CannaMatch.ca.
All right. How many members you got now?
We're still at the 4,200, just a little bit over. I checked today.
4,200. That's such a good number.
420. Yes, I think we've gone past the 00, so we missed out on the 420 part there. But that's why maybe we'll get to 4,420.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
We're marking them here too.
That'd be great. Yes.
We got 1,500. So George, how many members do we have of the Healing Wave now? Sorry? 1,516.
Yes.
We just went past 1,420 as well.
Oh, there you go.
That got the person whose name was I Love Purple.
Was that the doorman, Chris?
No, but they should meet, probably.
Yeah, they should.
See, what happens here at the Healing Wave is it's a low barrier access dispensary, and that's really important because for a variety of reasons, some people don't want to use their own name, don't have ID. So to be a member here, and we are a membership organization, everybody has to be a member to be able to access the cannabinoids through here, but low barrier access means it doesn't take much to be a member. Because we just want to know what name you want to use on your membership card.
Yeah.
And that's all.
And I've heard
that's all.
I've heard somebody give their name as olive oil from Popeye.
we could do a whole little mini book on the creative names,
Names.
because there's about probably 25 to 30%
Yeah.
of people that obviously are not using their real name.
Yes. Yes.
And it was important for us to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, as a community,
Yeah.
you know, how many out there would access cannabinoids to help them with whatever struggles they're having, but they can't and won't because of the name issue,
Yeah.
that you have to show ID and be who you say you are to access a plant.
And a lot of people on the street don't have ID.
Exactly.
Right? It's just a fingerprint or something, right? Yeah, for them sometimes, right?
So that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
That's what's needed.
It is what's needed.
Yeah,
it's important.
Like in the other communities where they have government stores, people have a little bit more income. But where you are right now, this is what's needed. And
even
in
those other places,
yeah.
cities, towns where people might have more income,
yeah.
there are still people there that don't want to give their real name,
yeah.
don't want to be identified as being a cannabis consumer for a variety of reasons that is nobody's business but theirs. And these people deserve to have access. We
yeah.
should not have public servants deciding that those people can be, you know, not part of this whole thing here of being able to get legal cannabis and force them into a black market where in many cases they're at risk.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, like a fear of that could be like, I remember when we used to watch the old Star Trek shows, how Spock would be able to pull up information from our time, right? It would say this parent did that and that. So maybe 50 years from now, cannabis could be a really bad thing, and they could say, "Oh, your parents were buying cannabis in 19 or 2020, and you're not allowed to do this because,
the governments and those who they are acting on behalf, which is not us.
Yes,
they have lied through their teeth and deceived so badly that people are right to be scared.
Yep.
I mean, you should fear your government. They have proven that. The lives that they have ruined, not just with the cannabis issue, but in other ways too, where all of a sudden you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and your government is not your friend.
Yeah.
So they can't be trusted, and we need to understand that. That should be written in stone as part of our fundamentals of whatever new democracy we come up with down the road, because I really think we need to rethink democracy.
Yeah, and we're actually changing the balance, because as more people get to know about cannabis and how good it is, the less they're going to be scared of it. And I think with Cindy Howell in Windsor, she said that
Shout out to Cindy.
Yeah, she goes down to an old folks home and smokes a bit of a pot, and then the old folks will come up to her and say, "Teach us about this."
Nice.
Right? So she's out there and she's educating people.
Beautiful.
And that's good, because those are the people that we need to change. The ones that are hard driven that drugs is bad, drugs is bad, right. Drugs is a gate drug, or, you know, weed's a gate drug, or whatever, gateway drug, right?
Exactly. We've still got to overcome all of that. But you're right, we're winning.
We're getting there.
We're winning.
Slowly.
The government is not our friend in that either.
Yeah.
You know, there's a really nice group, the BC Craft Farmers Co-op, that's come together, and they're just people that like growing cannabis. They've been doing it for a while, probably in many cases, and are good at it. They know they're helping people. It's something that they enjoy doing. Everybody that I've met that grows cannabis just loves what they're doing. It's a very therapeutic thing, for one thing, to be producing plants, and it's a spiritual thing to know that you're producing plants that are going to be used by people to help them in their health and things. So growing plants is a wonderful thing, and this group have put together a proposal for the federal government to allow them to be included in the legal market.
Yeah.
And
is that a Farmgate?
Well, Farmgate is part of it.
Yeah.
No, not part of what, I mean, they're happy with Farmgate.
Yeah.
Farmgate is a proposal by the provincial government here in BC that producers of cannabis, craft growers of cannabis, be able to market their own products, you know, even right from their own production facilities.
Like a farmer's market style, too.
And why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Right? If we can go and buy fresh, you know, pumpkins and tomatoes from a market and stuff like that, we should be able to go to a grower's farm and buy fresh cannabis.
Yeah, the big question in all of this,
salads and stuff,
as we move forward and we try to get our piece of paper with a signature on it and get some permission from these public servants to be able to do what we're doing in helping people, as we move forward through that process, where there's roadblocks put up, the big question is, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why do we need
these craft growers that have put together this great proposal? They're very responsible citizens. They want to be part of the legal market. They don't want to be criminals.
No.
You know, this proposal is very reasonable, and yet it seems Health Canada is going to deny them.
And they
Health
can
Canada is
create
going to say,
jobs.
well, no, maybe we'll only take a few, or, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to Why not allow more access? And they're being told that they're not going to be allowed to advertise at all as well. That's part of Health Canada's regulations. Well, how is that correct?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these are businesses.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of corruption, and we've got to do something
And I'm
about
hearing
this.
that even if you pay the $100,000 in order to apply to be one of these micro growers, that's not guaranteed.
Right.
Right. So then you could lose all that money just for trying. Right.
And a number of them will, won't they?
Yes, 11 of them will, but I'm still going to think that the government's still going to tell them that they have to spray their weed like they do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They might just try to do that, you know.
They might try to do that with us too, but we're gonna stick our ground that you know, good organic cannabis grown by trusted producers and tested by our own good testing equipment, and the track record of over 3.5 years of doing what we're doing should be enough.
Yeah.
You know, if not, why not?
But we also have decades of nobody ever dying from cannabis.
That too.
Right? So
exactly.
That's proof there.
They have no justification, and it should be demanded of them.
Yeah, they don't have any proof that spraying it with chemicals and irradiating it is going to make it any better than what we already have.
That's true.
Right? And like I said, nobody's ever got sick. Not I know. We've green out.
This whole thing about public safety just further stigmatizes the cannabis consumer.
Just like masks. And wear it for somebody else. Right? Don't wear it for yourself, wear it for somebody else. Because you know that's what you're gonna do, because you want to be nice to other people. You want to do charity things, and I'm doing my part by wearing a mask. Right?
Well, they sure were guilting people out for not wearing a mask.
Yeah,
you know, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Have as much fun as you can.
Oh, try.
Yeah.
All right, see you
That's all you can do is try, but have fun trying.
All right, thanks.
All right. And talk about government corruption. I'll tell you, our next segment here is called the Martin Medical Moment. And it's devoted to a gentleman, Jerry Martin, who had a dispensary in Saskatoon. And I mean, it's probably one of the epitomes of best examples of government corruption, and how, the government thinks they can come in and stop people from doing good in their communities. Jerry Martin was a dispensary owner for 4 years there, had over 1,000 people in a very small town in eastern Saskatchewan, and had helped his community in more profound ways than just about anybody else. Earned himself the nickname King of Compassion because of that. He was contributing to his communities all around him, the cannabis community with respect to activism, to try to get to further the issue of availability and reasonable access to medical cannabis, but so much in his community, where his community benefited very much by having him there. And that's more than just 1,000 or so people that were actually benefiting by the cannabinoids that he was helping them get access to. So Jerry was wanting to be part of the mainstream cannabis dispensary movement that was happening in Canada. When Trudeau said that he was going to legalize, and that was going to mean that people would have easy access, he thought that he'd be able to continue to do what he was doing there and helping people. And instead, we were lied to by Trudeau, and he just wanted to pad the pockets of his buddies and the people that helped him be in power. And that resulted in taxpayer dollars being used to wipe out all of the medical dispensaries to pave the way for the government non-medical dispensaries or stores. They're not dispensaries, they're stores. And Jerry was involved in that they sent him a letter to stop his dispensary, which is impossible to do. And then shortly after, they arrested him and seized all of his properties and belongings and closed down his store. And that's almost 4 years ago, coming up this November, and he still hasn't really had a day in court. I think he'll never get a day in court. They really don't want to face that. But this is all about government corruption. And Jerry's good enough to join me on the show every week, and I'm really happy that he does that. And Jerry, come on in here, man. Have a seat, buddy. How you doing?
Good, you?
I'm okay. I'm good. Today I'm good. Some water here. There's the real nectar of life.
Yeah, I brought some juice this time. Gave up the coffee since my last.
I see. Can you imagine if the corporations could actually get their hands on this stuff?
Want water? They have.
I know.
I guess they sold it all.
You can still get it out of your tap.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are.
That'll be.
But they sell a lot of water.
Yeah, they do.
Crazy stuff. So what's going on with you? Same old?
Same old.
Same old? Yeah? Okay, it's dragging
over
along.
Microdose today. seen a half a tab on the table, and I maybe I should eat that. I ate it.
And that worked?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Probably, yeah. Probably should be driving.
Well, then don't drive if you
No,
shouldn't be
okay.
driving.
I'm good. I'm good.
So, and you're talking about psychedelics, psilocybin and LSD,
Yeah.
that is now being touted as very beneficial in dealing with addictions and pain and anxiety and depression and that sort of stuff. And you're involved in a group that's trying to further those efforts through the courts. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, MindTech Therapeutics. We're putting together a company, and the ultimate goal is to take the government to court and challenge them on the efficacy of LSD and psilocybin for at least a microdose.
To ask them why not.
Yeah.
To ask them why not.
That's it.
Why not?
So yeah.
That's my question of the day to the government.
Yeah.
You know, why not?
Yeah, so there's a lot of science you got to put together and expert witnesses and things like that. So
it's an ongoing study. Are you still looking for participants in that?
Well, we haven't created a study yet, but we will be creating a study in the
so
near
there is
future.
Opportunity for participants coming up.
Yeah, and they'll be able to take actual LSD legally during the study. Yeah, so
right.
If they get that, I mean, they may get a placebo. We've got to do it double blind, right?
So they may or may not be getting the actual thing. And same with psilocybin. It's in the news a lot these days. The federal government, Health Canada, has allowed 4 terminally ill patients to have access to it. Isn't that nice of them?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's kind.
You're dying now. This might make you feel better, so
we guess we will allow it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I think I should have been born maybe a couple 100 years ago where you could have a revolution.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, nothing was illegal then either.
Well, so maybe
not everything.
They still needed revolutions apparently from time to time. It's been an ongoing theme here with humans, is that you get a good thing going, and then some people get to be in charge, and then all of a sudden it's going better for them than it's going for you, and you being almost everybody, and they being just a few, And
it's out of control now, eh?
It's out of control
it's been out of control
again.
for a long time.
Over and over and over again. History repeats itself. The human beings get, I don't know, swindled or conned or taken over. I called it kidnapped. I say we've been kidnapped.
Yeah, mentally.
Well, I mean, I was born a kid, and I was put to bed by my mom and dad, so I was kidnapped when I was little, and so I liked some of that stuff. I'm really happy about a fair amount of it. I wasn't happy about some of it. My dad had his own ideas about some things, and I didn't know who I was. I was just a guy who didn't like what my dad had some ideas about. So, I went one way, and he tried real hard to make me go other ways. And so there was definite battles and struggles within all of that, and there was torture. As in most families, the little ones, they get, scared shitless by the belt or the wooden spoon, or the back of mommy's hand, or, the nanny who used to do this. She used to, we had a Filipino nanny, and these little kids, and she would, we'd come home, my wife and I'd come home from work, and anytime, and if one of the kids started to act out in any way, all of a sudden they would calm right down. Well, we realized she was going like that to them. Because she'd flick him in the head. And you don't have to flick him more than a couple times before they just, you just got to show him, right?
Yeah.
So he said, no. You don't be flicking him in the head. You don't be scaring him. But the point is that kids feel like they're tortured. Yeah. My mom and dad meant the best. I know they did. My dad was a little bit brutal because he was just, raised that way himself, and spare the rod, spoil the child. I got spanked every day because, damn it, I deserved it, for things I'm sure I did, looking back, I must have deserved all of that. They told me I did. So, that's life, is that, you arrive here and you're just tiny, and these people have control over you, and they tell you to do shit you'd rather not do sometimes, and that, some of the stuff you do, they say, you can't do that. And it's mostly for your own benefit, and it's the part of nature, and it's good and everything. But when you get to that point where, now you're ready to, and, you know, you've been doing what you want for the last couple of years, no matter what mom and dad said anyway.
For sure.
You know, now you got maybe even another place to stay, or they boot your ass out the door.
Oh, I got another place to stay.
Yeah, me too.
Jail.
I started living in the back of my Volkswagen Beetle to stay away from my dad, you know. But after that, I thought, and my reasoning on it still is that now you're your own boss. You make your own decisions. Yeah, you want to cross some lines and hurt people, you're going to get hurt back. Probably, you know, you're going to run into a foul of laws, because that's what laws are all about. But if you don't hurt nobody, you should be able to be you. You get to do you any way that you do things, and, you know, nobody's business but yours. And so when I left my parents' place in the back of my Volkswagen Beetle, I had a bag of weed on me at one point and got, you know, arrested for it and thrown in jail overnight. And it really hit home that I was not free, that I had not, you know, moved out of one kidnap situation. Out of that, no, I was still kidnapped. And the more you look into it, the more you live your life, the more you realize you got to obey. You got to obey some stuff that doesn't make sense. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. But in every community across Canada, I found out that there's different bylaws that'll get you penalized for all kinds of different things that you really don't know about until you, even when you're in the town, unless you were to read their shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're all little bastions of their own stuff going on.
I got arrested for disturbing vegetation.
Is that right, eh?
Straight up. They arrested me on a warrant in a public park. So then I got out and seen the cops, and no, here we go again. But I thought, no, I don't have any warrants. I'm good, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, they pulled me over, questioned me, and said, there's a warrant out for your arrest.
Wow.
I said, for what? And they said, disturbing vegetation. When they arrested me, I'm sitting in a public park, disturbing the vegetation on that grass.
Oh, wow.
Straight up.
Straight up, eh?
Straight up. Truth.
Yeah, these little towns,
jail I went again.
they can put in bylaws for whatever the hell they want, it seems.
Yeah.
You know, I remember back in
cash cow,
one of the last elections, no, a couple back, we had a woman running in Burnaby who did not believe in public signs of affection. So no holding hands, no hugging, no kissing for sure. And probably she'd go to like full bathing suits, you know, and I don't know about that.
Wow.
But I know that that's stupid as hell. I know that nobody gets to tell you can't hold hands or hug somebody or kiss somebody. I know that that shouldn't be right.
They did for a long time.
That's what's going on here. We've got public servants that have been revolving over and over again, each one bringing in new sets of laws about all sorts of different things. And in many cases, they absolutely violate our natural rights to live our lives how we would want to.
I think the average American commits 3 felonies a day.
Is that right, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they can, you know, all of them can be looking at life.
Sounds like sounds like American football, where they say on any play you could call a penalty.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
if you wanted to.
So many felonies down there, right?
So many things that are felonies. And 3 strikes you're out, and other things like that. Yeah. No, we really need to revisit what democracy should be about. This is not right that we allow public servants to just get elected into these positions where they can then infringe upon our rights legally and enforce it with our own money. I mean, it is obscene what's going on. I really am getting more and more upset about it all the time because of the journey we're on to try to be legal in providing cannabinoids to the people here, because that's the best way to help them that we've come up with yet. There is no better way going on here in the downtown east side of Vancouver in dealing with the opioid crisis than what we've got going on right here. Our edibles program, where we allow people to come in and get 420 milligrams every 4 days for not 100% free, because they have to answer some questions as part of an ongoing way for us to understand what's going on and how to help them better, what works and what doesn't. It's just 4 or 5 simple questions. It's what are you using it for? What is the dosage that works best for you? What is the time in between dosages? And have you noticed any other benefits or problems in using the cannabis the way you're using it? And so we're helping, you know, to inform you know, decisions down the road somewhere by these public servants about what we can and cannot do. And it's just ludicrous that we're fighting it the way that we're fighting it. They need to come here. They need to really be open-minded and actually get to know what it is that's going on here before they start making decisions about what we can and cannot do. Sorry, I'm dominating the whole
No,
thing
that's
here.
cool. It's all about money, man.
Exactly. Bottom line, all about
Money.
money. Nothing is a better negotiator than a big bag of money.
And control, because they like to control.
So what do we got to do? We got to raise prices so we can make a whole bunch of money so we can give it to some government person in a paper bag.
Yeah,
And
paper bag.
in a paper bag.
Stories.
Mr. Vanderzam there getting his paper bag full of money, and he was.
I drove by that
He
guy's
is not
fucking
the
joint
only
one day,
one.
I swear to God, man. I was in Langley working at Preston Chevrolet detailing, and every lunch we smoked a big gagger. So as we're pulling out, I got this big gagger. He pulls up in his Mercedes. He was all over the news.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh man. And before we all had cell phones with cameras and stuff like that, there was a lot of shady dealings going on that nobody knew about. And now they're going on, but they just get smarter and smarter about how they do it. But the corruption is evident. That's for sure. I mean, you can see what it's adding up to. You might not be able to see what it is that's coming together to add up to that, but you can certainly see what it's adding up to. The biggest obstacle for us in trying to do what we're doing here is all about supply. They're really concerned about where the supply is coming from. Their concern is not that the supply that we're using is going to harm anybody in any way. That isn't even in the conversation. The concern is that the supply has to come through them, and they don't want to say why.
Well, because all the big gangsters have invested all their money in the Cayman Islands, which is funded all to the LPs, right? And,
the legal cannabis stores are being backed by some billionaire now.
There's a clip of that with Trudeau, and he just does it. He didn't know what to say when they brought that up.
They want to be the only ones that are selling cannabis, and they want to keep those prices up, really high. Because
where do they think all these billions of dollars come from?
Oh man,
right?
So they're making drinks now that have cannabis in it.
No, they don't. They say they do.
They have two milliliters or something.
Yeah, but wasn't the can fucking it up or something?
Yeah, the can was doing something.
Did they switch that now?
I think they've switched that. And it was only there was other containers that weren't doing that. But I mean, the math that was done, I don't have the figures in front of me, so you have to look that up somewhere else.
$100,000 a pound or something?
A hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It was a huge amount of dollars worth of drinks. And what it would take to produce that is like 10 pounds of weed.
Yeah.
So so I think you're right, because it might have been like $100,000 a pound. I think it was like $500,000 worth of drinks would take 10 pounds of weed to produce.
It's 1,000 milligrams in a
Wow. Yeah. Boggles the mind that they think they can get away with it.
You got $1 grams here.
We have $1 grams of cannabis bud.
Say it's 20%.
That's better weed than their 10 pounds that they're using for the drinks. I'll say there's good THC content in that. Probably about 16%. I don't know how these measurements go. But based on how they measure shit, that's at about 16%. And they're probably using 12 and below, right? That's all they ever use for anything.
Well, that's swag, right?
Some of the old stuff that's been hanging around for too long to sell now.
Then they'll come out in 10 years with one that's made with bud, and they'll charge you a whole bunch.
The corruption is just running so deep here. I don't know how they think they can get away with it. I don't. It just boggles my mind. I really think that the efforts that are being made, and with what they're doing, they keep moving farther and farther to the wrong. They're farther and farther to the wrong all the time, and the evidence against them is getting much larger and more actionable, and so that they're maneuvering themselves into positions where they're going to be able to be taken to task for the corruption.
Yeah.
And that's very rare in our system. It takes an awful lot to be able to go after people for corruption.
You can. Justin just changes all that. So he gets away with it.
Typically, that is what they do. I'm probably just in a dream world now. Maybe it was that purple dream that made me think that maybe we had a chance. I doubt it very much. I guess they all walk away. But they should walk away.
Yeah. As long as they walk away, that's all that matters.
As long as they walk away. And that's kind of my point here, is that if they're not going to help us help people, because we've got a bunch of dedicated people here. We're going to meet one of them in just a minute, and we got a whole bunch of dedicated people that are been there, done that from here, and it's about them and all of their families and friends. And we know what needs to happen. We've been doing it for almost 4 years now. We are helping people in these very profound ways, and the government is interfering with us. And our point has been, if you're not going to help us, get the hell out of the way. Stop putting up barriers. Stop scaring our volunteers and the people that are trying to help here. Get the hell out of the way if you're not going to help us. Please help us.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what I know. All right. Jerry, what do you want to add? Anything? We can just update next time with what's going on?
Yeah, no, I'm just, still working on getting the passport back and Belgium. I got to book a ticket somewhere.
Okay.
Damn COVID. I see Peru's going down every day now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what's going on next week.
Yeah.
In the meantime, have as much fun as you can.
You too.
Microdelics.ca.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, see you.
Quite the journey we're having. I really thought that the Martin Medical Moment segment would have ended before the year mark of the show, because it's so ridiculous that they're even trying to come after him for anything with all the good that he did in his community and what's happened in that community. I've been to Whitewood since, crack shacks popped up, all kinds of bad incidents going on that weren't happening when Jerry had his dispensary there. And of course, that's the story everywhere where you have dispensaries, is that the crime rate goes down and the opioid use goes down and, good things happen. So anyway, Jerry's still fighting that fight. And it looks like he's going to be coming on the show and updating us as to the proceedings to do with trying to get into court one day for the foreseeable future. So today on the show, I'd like to introduce you to a person that's been so involved with the Cannabis Substitution Program right from the beginning at Van Du, and has worked her way into being just such an integral part of what we're doing here. She's got one of the kindest hearts of anybody I've ever met. She's considered an angel on the downtown east side. I think she's our social media butterfly, and probably a good part of the glue that holds this whole thing together here. A real attention to detail and making sure that the tough stuff gets done. And Jen Nelson is my guest, and I'd like to have her come on the show and speak for herself. So come on in here, Jen.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in on your day off.
Yeah. I tend to come in on my days off.
This might be harder work than you're used to. I don't know. Or maybe you're just going to have fun.
Well, I already scooped the litter box, so we're good to go.
Speaking of which, could...
Should we introduce the kitten?
Oh, yeah. Damien. Yeah. And you were just horseback riding.
I was.
How'd that go?
It was great.
That's cool.
I love it.
Horseback riding is great.
She even took a video of me this time that she's going to send me.
Nice. Well, we want to play that. We have a new member of our team here, thanks to Jen and all of her hard work. Not sure what you really had to do with it. Hey, buddy.
Cat's hard work.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Come and say hi.
Hey, little one.
Maybe bring his little post there.
His podium.
Yeah. Are we on television? We haven't even named the kitty yet.
He responds to kitten so far.
Yeah.
One day he responded to 420.
I call him a good boy.
And one day he responded to Puff Puff Pass.
Hey, what's coming up here? What's coming up here? You might be a regular feature on the show. You might just be a regular feature on the show. Check it out.
He's like, no, I like the table.
There you go. There you go. You don't have to stay if you don't want. Nobody owns a cat. But
I would laugh really hard.
that's not a COVID cough, by the way. Regular thing here. I don't usually let the cat on the table, but maybe for this one opportunity, because otherwise he might just go away. But he's a very good boy. He's been a very good boy since we got him, and he really brings a little bit more good vibe to what is already a great vibe place.
Yes, he does.
So before I get to that, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally?
Edmonton.
Edmonton. You were born there? Went to school there?
Uh-huh.
I see. So what, did you graduate there?
No. Okay. I'm not a high school graduate.
Okay.
No, I moved here when I was 12.
Oh, okay.
And I dropped out of high school because I was getting bullied really bad.
At what age?
About 16, I think.
So at 16.
Started working right away.
What did you do?
Restaurants.
as a server and a hostess and those kind of things?
No, not at that age, because I think you have to be 19 to serve alcohol. But food and
I
whatnot, I helped out.
I meant food server. I don't think alcohol.
Restaurants have alcohol.
I see. And so your life progressed, and you know you worked in restaurants for a while. What else happened in your life that is of significance?
Well, I was working.
What's your story?
I was working in restaurants when I got in my first bad car accident, and all the other ones that ensued that led to me being homeless. And
So
led to me...
that's the big theme in your life, sort of, isn't it? Is these accidents that happen to you? Well, it's true, right? It changed your life, and so
Oh, definitely.
yeah. So tell us about that. You had an accident. What was the first one? How old were you? Were you how badly injured?
Well, the very first one was my fault. That was drinking and driving.
I see.
So I have never driven again. That was my punishment for myself. I'm like, nope.
I see. How old were you?
19.
19. And how badly hurt were you?
Not bad at all. I got maybe whiplash. I mostly hurt myself because I was so upset about it because it was my friend's car, and we ended up not being friends anymore after.
And you ended up deciding not to drive, which
you
know is a big change of direction in a person's life.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't learn that lesson right away. You know
I never learned it. I'm thankful I never learned it.
You're thankful you never learned to not drink and drive?
To not drive. Lots of people decide not to drive.
Oh, I meant drink and drive.
Well, but you decided not to drive. You could have decided not to just drink and drive, but you decided not to drive.
Yeah.
And that's a big decision.
I can't afford it anyway. I can't afford it.
Well, but you know, depends how you operate it. You know, you have to look at a vehicle as a way to make money. You know, it's a way that allows you to have a better job, to do other things, there's a lot of value in having a vehicle, and it should pay for itself. It shouldn't be an expense. It should be an actual asset. You know, it depends on how you do it. Not everybody does it like that. But, you know, if it allowed me to get to work on time every morning in a place that I otherwise wouldn't even be able to get to, with all of my tools with me that I needed.
Well, exactly. Depends on what profession.
Yeah, it depends on your profession. Depends on how you work it. But I mean, it should be more of an asset than a deficit, or why bother?
That's why I don't bother. There's no. Well, and plus for me, I realize it doesn't matter how well you drive. It matters how bad everybody else drives.
Oh, it's dangerous out there.
Yes.
No doubt about that. It is dangerous out there. Easy to make a mistake, and easy to be the victim of somebody else's mistake.
Yep.
So no doubt about that. You're a little safer. In fact, my son doesn't drive, and he's told me a number of times that probably saved his life. And
being a pedestrian isn't safe either. That was my first bad car accident. I was a pedestrian, got run over by a motorcycle, and he left me in the middle of the road.
Wow! And how old were you when that happened?
21.
So a couple of years later, you had another accident where you got run over.
The next 2 years.
Run over by a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And 3 more accidents in the next 2 years.
None of which were my fault. I was carpooling in one of them, and 2 were on
the
bus.
I never talk fault. I never talk fault. I only talk consequences. You know, what did it mean? What happened? These things changed and shaped your life.
I've been being on narcotics for over a decade.
Right? Prescribed?
Yeah.
Always prescribed?
Yeah. I don't trust anything on the street.
Well, you sure can't trust anything on the street nowadays. That's
well, because I remember a few years ago, it was in the news that pill presses got stolen.
Oh, of course they have pill presses.
So sure, it looks exactly like what you think it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. Pills are no safer than powders here. No. Pills are no safer than powders. You don't want to be buying powdered pill-formed drugs on the street.
I won't even buy weed on the street anymore.
Well, you're probably not going to get harmed by it like those other things might.
But if it's dealers that are also dealing fentanyl and whatnot,
don't be buying your weed off a fentanyl dealer. I wouldn't like to think of fucking
most dealers are selling everything.
Prohibition is so ridiculous. You know, fentanyl dealers would not sell weed for $1 a gram.
No.
So therefore, we should allow weed to be sold for $1 a gram to keep it out of the hands of the fentanyl dealers. Makes sense to me.
I can't remember who told me the other day about the most expensive weed in the world is over $300 a gram.
We heard more than that. No, we've heard more than that. And actually, the LPs are trying to squeeze all kinds of those kind of dollars out of a gram of weed, you know, by having very tiny amounts in things and being able to sell it
So is their
You know?
whole idea then to just not have people smoke weed because that's what it's going to lead to?
You got to think that that's
'Cause
some of the
nobody-
idea of some of the people involved in legalization. I believe that a lot of people in the LP world, both management and workers, want good weed to get to people at good prices, and they want it to work, and they're like that. But I do think that there's a lot of people in government that don't want cannabis to be normalized. They don't want it to be advertised or promoted in any way. They don't want it to be used as medicine. And why they have those biases, well, I don't know 100% what has corrupted them like that. Be it
they're
that
making
they
money on it somehow.
bought into reefer madness and they're in the delusion that was painted by media for 100 years about how cannabis made people violent, insane, stupid, lazy, all those kind of things. And it depends what strain you're using.
Which is crazy, because do you think I'm a lazy person?
Oh, not at all.
Right?
I mean,
smoke
cannabis.
weed every day.
Well, the truth is that cannabis has the whole range of effects from being a relaxant to a stimulant.
Yeah.
So, a heavy indica for most people can put them to sleep. Especially if you eat edibles too much, it can put you to sleep. Most people, right? So it has that effect as
Well,
on
for
the
me, that's
relaxant
pretty much
side.
only when I eat edibles. Generally, well, like when we get stuff here, yeah, I try it. But
But
when
sometimes
I
you
take
smoke
high
a
dose
joint,
stuff, it's because I want it to help me go to sleep.
and other times you smoke a joint and you can't go to sleep. Your mind is racing. You got these things that you're meant to do, and you got to get up and do them. And you're working at your house, and you're cleaning this and that, and that's a sativa for most people.
Yeah.
But cannabis can have that effect as well, and that's the stimulant
Well,
side.
then some people.
So it can make you crazy. It can get you crazy up in the middle of the night cleaning stuff, or not able to sleep, or having your brain going, round and around and reading the same paragraph 3 times over. All dependent on what strain you're using, what body chemistry you're involved with, the time of day, biorhythms, your diet, and lots of different things. So it can make you that crazy.
Yeah.
It can make you lazy, where you can't get off the couch. You feel like you're just stuck there. A good concentrate can do that to me of an indica.
I remember when I was a teenager, weed was definitely stronger for me back then.
But if you need to focus on something, the right strain, bingo. If you need energy, you want to get your place clean, the right strain, done. You're needing to go to sleep, you're tired and your mind's racing, the right strain, and you go to sleep. So they told lies about cannabis. I mean, certainly doesn't make you murderous or that sort of thing. But they said it made you.
Make us not murderous.
But to say it makes people lazy, well, that can be true depending on the strain, depending on what the person. And many of our young people are stressed to the max. The world is so not easy to live in,
especially this year.
And sleep is where we heal. So, if you're going to ingest some cannabis and it's going to make you sleep as a young person and make your parents think you're lazy because you don't want to do all your homework and your chores right after you get home from fucking school, and you just want to sleep, you want to chill, you want to put on the headphones, you want to play a little game or something, well, that's because that's what you need. You need to have some downtime. You need to relax.
And see, I wish I had started smoking weed younger. Because I used to stay up all fucking night watching movies and shit till like 7 o'clock in the morning when I had to be up.
Stay up too late.
Well, yeah, but exactly.
I see you're posting.
Yeah, well,
I message you just before I'm about to go to sleep at midnight. I wake up in the morning and see that you answered the text at like 2:30 in the morning.
My ringer wasn't on. I didn't get to see your message.
You're watching a movie. But in any case, I'm just teasing you. So all of this has kind of led you to ending up here on the downtown east side, right?
And definitely never where I thought I'd be.
Struggling with pain issues for sure. Struggling with other types of issues. Poverty is easy down here because everything's expensive. We live in a very expensive part of the world. So tell us a little bit about that. You landed down here, and how did things go for you? And I guess I would like you to end up with telling me how you ended up at the Cannabis Substitution Program at Vancouver.
Okay. Well, I lived in shelters for a couple of years before I finally managed to get housing. And it's not really housing. I live in an SRO. But it's better than being outside. like physically it was really hard for me living
So it's a
outside.
single room.
Yeah.
Do you have a shared bathroom or
No, I at least have my own toilet, but I do a shared shower.
shared shower?
But toilet to me is I'd rather have my own
Actually,
toilet.
are you still in? You're not still in the same building you started out in here.
Yeah, I've only lived in one SRO. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
Even how long then?
over 4 years now.
I see.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that building is not the greatest building. It's great that you live there.
Well,
Without
yeah,
you, where would they be?
Well, because they have a live-in unpaid building manager.
Yeah.
So
Who really cares and is willing to get in and do the dirty work?
Oh.
Wow. I didn't realize you'd been in the same place all
too.
this time.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I clean the toilets here, because I don't want you doing that anywhere else, because you already have to do it in a horrible place. Well, good on you for all that. So you're living in this SRO, you're making the best of it, and
well, and so you remember Glenn?
Oh yeah, Glenn Dumont.
Yes.
Yes.
So he is how I heard about the.
Oh, okay. So you know Glenn.
He used to work in my building.
Oh, what did he do there? Glenn works. Sorry, Glenn.
Well, he got fired for doing inappropriate things. So
now I'm really sorry.
But at some point, well, I started looking after his dogs for him sometimes. One of which has passed away now, but he still has one. But at some point,
I think I only met the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Sweet Pea was the other one.
No, I didn't.
Brutus is.
Yeah, Brutus is the only one I know.
But yeah, well, one day he told me about some place giving out free weed, and I was
What
like,
do you think of that idea?
I was like, bullshit. I was like, nobody gives out free weed. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're crazy.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to believe Glenn because he is kind of, you know, he'd be like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. You know, sorry, Glenn.
Well, he, you know, he believes
he's a good guy.
And whatnot. Yes, he's
some
a
of
good
the
guy.
time. Yeah.
We don't necessarily believe in all the same things.
Nobody believes in all the same things. There's drastic differences in some people, Glenn. But anyway, so he's a good guy, and he was good enough to tell you about the free weed, and you eventually, so you came and seen us.
Eventually, yeah, I came to the lineup to check it out and see if it was true.
What did you think of your first care pack?
God, I don't even know if I can. I don't actually remember like the first time that I went.
I see.
Because yeah, I was in the lineup for a while before I ended up becoming a volunteer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I braved the cold with everybody else.
So it was winter time?
Oh yeah, winter, summer.
Because sometimes it was braving the heat, and sometimes it was braving the cold, and sometimes it was braving the wind and rain.
And people butting in line and all that.
Lots of stuff to brave there.
That was my biggest frustration. Because I told you about one time about... Because yeah, me and Sarah would show up like 3 hours early to try to make sure we had a good spot near the front of the line so we'd get a good package.
So you don't get bumped back so far that you don't get something.
Yet that still kind of happened anyway.
We tried our best to keep people from butting in.
Oh no, they're holding my spot for me. Or no, I'm with so-and-so.
Oh, I know.
Just say anything. Just a group of them would just kind of emerge out of nowhere. So I kind of just got fatter and longer. But no, one day what I got really upset about was a guy that had butted in front of me. Goes in and comes in and he's like, oh look, I got a tincture. And I came in and asked for one. He got the last one. I was like, really?
I'm sorry about that.
But, you know,
unfortunately down here, those that butt in receive in many cases. And it's what you learn down here when you're desperate, is that if you're willing to be rude and do the wrong thing, you can get what nobody else is going to get.
Yes, good manners doesn't always get.
I mean, we try. I mean, you know, I would try to address that. If I saw it blatantly, you know, I would probably not have given him that tincture. But it is very difficult to control.
It used to get so busy there. There was mayhem sometimes. Like I remember once I was a volunteer, I was out front I think, to take the pictures, and I was trying to get back inside, and somebody in a motorized wheelchair ran over my foot.
Another motor vehicle accident. Not your fault.
Were they what? I don't know.
Yeah. There's not a lot of insurance going on down here.
I thought you asked if they were drunk. I was like, probably. I don't
know. Typically, they're not driving over people to get insurance. They're jumping out in front of cars. That goes on. That's why the speed limit is 30 kilometers, just to prevent serious injuries when they do that. But there is some of that going on where they're trying to collect insurance by jumping in front of cars. But desperate people will do desperate things. And yeah, it's certainly...
Well, that's why ICBC doesn't believe anybody. Like, they thought I was faking it. They followed me around. My lawyer told me, like, they videoed me and everything. I was like, that's so creepy to know that, like, somebody was following me on transit and I didn't even notice. I'm like, that's so creepy.
Yeah, that is very creepy. And I'm sure that's going on all over the place.
Especially because of where I went. I'm like, but I took, like, 2 buses and the SkyTrain. Like, what the like,
wow, eh?
That's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was a lot of chaos at the lineup. How did you get to be one of the volunteers?
Well, I kept mentioning it. I'd be like, hey, do you guys need more volunteers? Hey. And eventually I gave Ted my phone number, and he happened to live literally right around the corner from me. And so he texted me one day, he's like, come over, let's see if you can roll some joints. And
so you started out joint rolling?
Yeah, we ate a bunch of edibles and honey and smoked a ton of weed. And
right on.
And he's like, yeah, you'll fit in.
Let's ask one question. When are you going to have the 420 in the park again? Are we going to start?
Paul, you cannot interrupt my show and ask me some question that would take me 20 minutes to answer, please.
Yeah, if you can't be quiet, please just wait outside, maybe. We're trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, this is live TV here. You gotta, we can have a conversation some other time. That is going to be a good question as to when we're going to have a 420 again, but we're not going to answer that today. So you're a joint roller. I kind of remember the day, I think, when I had opportunity for you to put bags together. Do you remember that day?
I believe, well, because Ted was helping you at one point when Mike stopped, and then either Ted wasn't there.
I think it was Mike wasn't going to be coming to help at that point, or something. I don't remember. It is a long time ago, and it is many, many joints ago. Yeah. So, what can I say?
Many joints, many edibles.
The right strain at the right time, it can help you. It can be a focusing tool. It can help you sleep. All these other things. Too many strains, too much of the time can affect your long-term memory, or I'm just getting old. One of the two. But,
well, and I've had a concussion, so that can be
there's your excuse. I've banged my head too.
I don't like blaming anything on weed.
Memory is such a funny thing in the first place.
It really is.
Several people seeing the same fairly simple event and then giving their account of it will be different drastically in many cases from other people. And for me personally, I've been shocked myself at things where I thought my memory was completely clear on certain things the way they had happened, and then evidence to the contrary. So I don't trust myself anymore. I don't know what to think. I'm just having fun. I remember some things. I remember some people. I got so many names in my head. It's crazy.
I know some people get offended when I ask if they remember. Because, I've been here so many times. I'm like, sorry, we do have over 1,500 members now.
It's true. Well, now we've jumped ahead a little bit. Let's go back to Vandu a little more. So you got the job of putting bags together or helping with that.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you took it over. Yeah. Well, you did such a good job. Seriously, it's not that easy, because I would arrive with boxes full of a variety of different things, and then we would on the spot have to decide how big the lineup is going to be that day, how many bags we thought we might need, how many we can put into each bag, which ones should go where. Yeah, it got to be pretty complicated, and I'm really, really happy that you took that over, because I used to do it myself for the first quite a while.
Oh, goodness.
And like so many other people that came along, Andrew that came along and looked after the Holy Rollers and all the other volunteers, and George that sort of looked after the table, and all these other people that helped out, made it so important. The door, the lineup. We had 15 volunteers every time.
Really?
Really. That many. Yeah. 50.
No, not always. Well, I remember at one point, I was the only one making the packages, and then we started bringing in more people.
Well, but we would have Andrew, we would have somebody at the table, we would have myself, we would have somebody at the door. Jerry was there videotaping. Basically, there was fluctuations, I'm sure, but basically there was a 15-person crew that was making all that work, plus all the donators and all the work that they were doing to prepare the stuff before I would pick it up into the boxes. So it was a pretty big thing going on. It was really hard to manage inside of Vandu, where we'd have a lot of people.
Yeah.
That
it was easier on the days that they were closed.
Oh, for sure.
Because then it was just, no, you get your package and you go. You can't come in and hang around.
Well, because if people could get inside of Vandu, then they could get their bags early.
Yep.
And so that there was lots
Well,
of
not even
things.
that. We had stuff go missing a couple times too.
There was
There's
people that
so many
figured out
people
how
in
to.
there that we couldn't keep an eye on everything. And,
Well, and then we all just. Andrew was the guy behind that. Everybody, keep your eyes on everything all the time.
Oh, me
Eyes
too,
open
'cause
all the time on everything. And so, that became a pretty
Yeah.
good way to do things. It was an interesting time. It felt to me like a protest against laws every time I was there. Every time I was arriving, I was feeling like, we're gonna go break the law again today.
Like there were certain aspects of being there that made me sad, because there's people selling and doing other drugs right outside and even inside, right? But for the couple hours that we were there, we were making it a better place. I think we were the best thing happening in there.
That's how you felt when you were arriving, is I'm going to go make the world a better place for the next couple hours here? Yeah. Right on. I always did too, but I always had that sense of, this is kind of, I wanted to stay in touch with the idea that this is illegal. Yeah. We live in a world where our government doesn't allow these people to get what they need here, and boy, do they ever need this. And on any day, they could come and arrest me. I always thought going in, what's going to happen today? Who's going to show up today? Are we going to have media? Are we going to have government? Are we going to have police?
Remember the film crew from Paris? They weren't even there for us. They were there for Vandu, but they ended up talking to us too.
I wonder where that documentary went, eh? We had a lot of different people come through, a lot of people interviewing and stuff like that. You got to do a fair bit of that, and you're in so many different of our videos and pictures and what have you.
I like the video though for my birthday where you brought me outside, got the whole lineup to help you sing happy birthday. I was just like, oh my god.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like the pictures. Every time we went there, we'd have the group picture to start with, because I wanted to document every time. Yeah. I wanted to be like, we're here. And
I still share those memories on Facebook. Diane is so happy about that, because she's like, I didn't save any of the pictures. She's like, I'm saving them all now from your posts. So
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other good times did you have there?
Oh God.
What sticks out in your memory of anything, or maybe there's things you don't want to mention that stick out in your memory, or?
I'm trying to think of, there was a lot of crazy stuff that went on in there.
Yeah.
But
there was a day there was the bullet holes in the front door from the night before, or the hour before, right?
We remember the day we got locked out, so we had to do it outside. I was freezing, but yeah, we bagged everything up.
Well, that's just because dress properly for the weather. That's all.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna be indoors.
Yeah.
And I was not dressed like this. I had a jacket. It just was not thick enough.
So, I lied to you over and over again, telling you that we were this close to getting a storefront for probably a year and a half.
Oh, I know.
I
stopped even kind of listening at that eventually. I was like, yeah, we'll see.
I got to figure out how to even be sincere about it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I could fake sincerity.
And it was kind of hard to believe that we actually finally got a fucking space.
It was, wasn't it? And so, geez, I'm not sure how to begin to ask you about this space.
Well, one thing I wanted to add, though, about the lineup, although it's the same thing here, is how far people are willing to come. Like, we had people coming from Langley, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Mission, White Rock, everywhere. For the free edibles, we have people coming for the dispensary as well, coming that far.
For me, it was how long some of those people were willing to endure
the cold,
the heat, the rain. Even just having to be on concrete.
Just standing there getting soaked for fucking 3 hours.
Or just standing there. Just the fact that you're on top of concrete and gravity is dragging you down. And so many people had all these pain issues going on.
Well, you saw lots of people start bringing milk crates.
Sure. Yeah. That was the way to go, because it was so hard to stand out there.
Yeah, people just like me would show up, several hours early to try to make sure that they got a package.
So yeah, it really speaks to the value of how cannabis helps people, for sure. That was a great testament to that.
When I started bringing granola bars and whatever that way, because there were so many times that we ran out and there were still 20, 30 people, and I wanted them to at least get something for standing in line for,
Yeah, I had very mixed emotions on those days where we didn't have enough.
Yeah.
Because even though we wouldn't have had enough, we had a lot.
Yeah.
And you've given out a lot,
Well,
and
there's
it's really
never
doing.
gonna be enough. You know what I mean? Because
Oh well,
there
sometimes
would be several hundred more people.
I'm talking about, because sometimes at the lineup we did have enough.
But you know what I mean.
Everybody got a really nice care pack. Many people would come back 2 times through the lineup, and so that
But imagine if every single person
those
in
times
BC was
I just
showing up
felt
there.
like, man, oh man, we satisfied the community's need here today. As far as those that were willing to line up, as you drive through the streets and you see so many other people that need to be helped and need to be rescued from here.
Well, and that's what I liked about there was small periods of time there where we had stuff left over. And I loved that because I would take that stuff and do outreach. I would give it out, if I was on the bus and heard somebody complaining about pain, I'd be like, hey, here, try this.
Exactly.
Or if I was walking through the park, here, try to have a gummy.
And for my purposes, always having a surplus meant that I had a little bit of a cushion for the next week, because we would give out everything we had. Everything I got was out there.
Yeah.
With 2 exceptions where I did manage to keep some of the twisted extracts, for time to time. I got to meter those out, but each time I would bring like a lot, and then they'd be gone. And so whenever there was a little bit left over, it meant that I had
that's why when we
something
had
to put
those
towards.
as an option for the CSP, they went like ridiculously fast.
It's been an amazing run. That is for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of ups, a lot of downs. We made a lot of friends. There was such a sense of community amongst the volunteers,
And, I've had
amongst the
some
people
people
there.
complaining actually that they missed that.
Well, me too. I was
And they
actually.
do still hang around outside, some of them, right?
I was there today.
Oh,
I was parked just like a quarter block down the street to go to the store across the street. And there in front of Van Du, shuffling around, were a couple of the regulars that would be in our lineup, but they're not here. And so I was thinking about that there are a number of people that we lost in the transition.
Oh, definitely.
We got most of them, but there was some that we lost for sure. So
because there's some that were regulars but didn't come all the time, and so like now that we've been here months, I've had some people come in and be like, "Oh, I just finally found you guys."
I know. So and here we are. Tell us about the Healing Wave Dispensary and the Cannabis Substitution Program, seeing as how it's changed from the project over there to the program here. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a beautiful little space. Nice away from Hastings.
Can we do a little pan, Neil?
Oh, I got it.
Oh, you have a camera?
He's ahead of you.
And Neil is always ahead of me.
Well, yeah.
It's like the drummer in the band. The drummer's got to lead the way, and Neil's the leader.
Yeah.
I just follow.
So yeah, I'm here 4 days a week. And yeah, we have over 1,500 members now.
In just under 4 months.
Yeah, well, at the dispensary, and then for the CSP, we have what, 250 something?
252.
Yeah, and we have what, another like 200 people on the wait list?
Yeah. 185 on the wait list. And the wait list for me is kind of like running out of care packs at Van Du.
Well, yeah,
that's what that feels like.
There's some people that like, I don't really feel that they necessarily need it. They might, but the ones that really look like they could fucking use it, it breaks my heart having to be like, well, I can put you on a wait list. And, hopefully we'll be able to start adding people soon. We don't know when.
The BC Craft Farmers Co-op has got an application into the federal government to be able to sell retail, and probably using the farm gate plan that Mr. Horgan's put forward there. Part of their proposal is that the excess that they produce, which now has to be destroyed, would be able to be diverted to us and to other places that are doing what we're doing and getting cannabinoids to people to help with the overdose crisis. So,
well, even on the weed that gets confiscated by the cops, what happens to that? If it gets destroyed? Or do they get to do what they want with it?
Cops need weed too, so they try to only confiscate the good stuff, and then when they got their cops parties and barbecues, they at least got some good stuff. Because they have trouble buying weed, although they're welcome here. They can come in here anytime they want. We won't even ask them for their real name. They can give us whatever name they want. And then they can access cannabinoids too, because it would be nice to have a police force.
Or even CBD oil,
They have aches and pains. They suffer from depression and risk of suicide and lots of things, and cannabis can help with a lot of that. It's really a tragedy that our politicians, our governments are still lying about cannabis, that we're not embracing it the way that it should be embraced. The truth is not being told about the benefits of using cannabis and all of its different strains in ways that benefit yourself. As we talked about earlier, you can become lazy, you can get too excited and not be able to sleep, but you can also find the relief that you need. You can also find the energy that you need, the focus that you need, the pain relief that you need. There's all of that available in the cannabis plant because it mimics our endocannabinoid system. We are literally made of the cannabinoids that are available to us in nature. We are part of nature. This is the plant that we have the closest symbiotic relationship to of all the plants. It's an ancient plant, and the proof that human beings have been consuming cannabis for millennia is that we have an endocannabinoid system. Google it if you don't know what that means. It means that our human body is regulated and balanced by a system whose job it is to do that. And the way that it does that is it manufactures the exact chemistry that is cannabinoids to go around and do that, because the cannabinoids, all the 100 or however many of them there are, they have a variety of different abilities and ways to act, to maintain homeostasis, if I want to get technical, in the human body. Then I shouldn't get technical, who am I? But anyway, having just as much fun as I can is all I'm doing.
She's our sister from another mister.
Yeah, exactly. This is the plant that we should be eating, that we should be consuming in all its different forms and using for all the things that we need, because it's the plant that we're basically composed of. We obviously have had this relationship of consuming this plant throughout the millennia as we've evolved from lower life into now, because it's not just us, it's all of the vertebrates. Some of the non-vertebrates also have endocannabinoid systems. So there you go. I just took some of your interview time, but I wanted to point that out because it's important that people understand these things. That,
it's okay. I know you. I know you like to talk.
My whole show is about giving myself an opportunity to get this stuff off my chest. So I have guests that I can manipulate into letting me rant.
Well, at least this time I didn't have to just. At least this time I didn't have to just sit here and smoke a joint while you two talk about hockey.
At least I'm honest about it, you know.
You can talk and she can exercise her endocannabinoid.
She looks good just sitting there, you know. I mean, she doesn't have to speak. I at least got to say something for people to be interested in having me on their screen, you know. And what I say better be interesting.
1940, women don't need to speak or something.
Well, the truth is, a beautiful woman doesn't. You know, be it 1940s or all through history, a beautiful woman.
Sure, we don't need to, but we like to.
And I'm fine if you do, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just pointing out.
Even if you said I
I'm just pointing out that you're much more interesting to look at if it's just looking at somebody than any of my brothers, and so almost any of my brothers. I mean, there's a few exceptions perhaps in the mix, but I'm not one of them. And so, you know, if I'm going to be viewed by people, I have to have something that is at least somewhat interesting to say, or try to. So that's why I have guests.
It's my eyes.
It's your eyes.
It's that whole personality, because, you know, this is not an easy place to work. This is not a place where just anybody could come and get a job, being a bud tender. You're not just a bud tender here. And I guess that is true for probably any cannabis store or dispensary, that there are some people that are going to require a little bit of kid gloves. But in a community cannabis shop like this, where we're providing low barrier access to people that are struggling with opioid misuse or the use of street drugs in ways that are, you know, risking their lives, and many other things, there's just a lot of care that needs to be taken, and a lot of compassion that needs to be had for people, a lot of patience that you need to have to be able to help people get the help that they need. There's people that you know, are not easily helped, and there are people that easily provoke. And so to work in a place like this, you have to be a person like this, and someone who genuinely cares about helping people that need help and people that are struggling, who doesn't judge people or condemn them for who knows what. It's nobody's business but theirs how they got to be here. But they're here, and they're in trouble, and they're somebody's children. And you need people who are going to respond to that and be able to be patient about that and have the right answers. And I don't know too many people better than yourself. I don't want to, you know, burst your head into a big thing here, but you know, you really have, you know, embraced your community, and that you can do good, and good needs to be done. And I'm sure you understand, like I understand, that there's great wealth and benefit in helping other people. I mean, it's,
definitely.
you know, so, you know, that's part of it. We're just selfish people here that are trying to feel good. But no, it is a matter of being able to have empathy for the person, to have an understanding to some degree of the trials and tribulations that people go through to get to be, you know, where they need our help here. So
well, I like trying to be, well, I love having the opportunity here to make somebody's day better. And yes, we are making the world better as well.
It makes you better to make other people's days better. And, you know, that's kind of my point too.
Definitely.
But
I've said it's contagious. It's addictive. Like, I love the smiles that we put on people's faces, and just how happy they are to come here, how happy they are that they found us. You know, like
human beings,
it's amazing.
Human beings are being misrepresented by the media, by the overall corporate attitude of what human beings are. They portray people as being greedy and selfish.
Some are.
And
not
some
everybody.
are, and in some cases people are. But for the most part, most of us care about our communities. We care about our families. We care about our own self-image as far as how we treat the world. We care about the environment. We care about those things. People generally do care about these things, but we're manipulated into having us all be more about ourselves and more about being willing to take advantage of people. But when community needs help, community gets together. When there is trauma that hits a community, the communities rise up, they get together, and they do what's necessary to stem the flow, stop the tide, whatever it is that's coming through, deal with the people that can't help themselves. The people that are in real trouble, they get bombarded with all of the things that they would need from the community because we support each other here. And that's something that, you know, corporations and governments use against us when they're coming up with these regulations and rules for us. But
well,
I'm
it's
not
something
sure
that they'll never understand. Like they don't understand people over profits.
They don't. They're
all about making money. That's all they care about. They don't care about actually helping anybody.
That's business.
Yeah.
That's just business.
They didn't get into the weed business to help anybody. They got into it because they saw, hey, it's making money. We can get money from that.
Those people that are part of the Trudeau cartel are exactly that. By their product, by what they're producing into our communities, they are all about profit over people.
And we've had members come here and tell me one of the government stores they went to, they paid $70 to $90 fucking for an eighth.
An eighth of weed.
That's insane. Somebody else paid $22 for one joint and didn't get high on it.
Yeah, we've all heard the horror stories. And
the way
it's looking, it's going to get worse, not better.
Well, especially for people on welfare or disability, it's not a lot of money to live on.
Oh, you can't. And what we're doing here is trying to help people offset the use of opioids and street drugs. So if you're addicted to street drugs and you're going to use high-dose edibles to get off, to get through the withdrawal, and then you're going to use them to replace those opioids and street drugs, you're a daily user. You know, you're not going a day without using fairly large amounts of cannabis in whatever form you're using it. So absolutely priced out of those people's range, everything to do with the government stores, for sure. That's why I'm so happy that we've got dollar grams. You know, $1 a gram really does help people get access instead of having to go to the other drugs.
Are affordable too.
And we have really affordable edibles. We have $2 caps, you know, of the different varieties of cannabis products. So that allows.
Makes his strong cookies, 260 milligrams.
260 milligram cookies are available here
for $5.
That's it. They come with warnings. Not going to kill you.
No, they come with big grins from the staff. Yes.
Well,
try.
You know, we could talk a little bit about that because, you know, we're talking about whether or not the government has a role to play in regulating this stuff and whether or not we should be afraid of it, as whether or not it needs to have strict restrictions.
And like you can't eat too much. Like I've greened out once. I got too high
And
threw up a whole lot.
you admittedly are you have a very high tolerance.
Yeah, and so I didn't even think I could green out.
So, but you have experienced it.
Yeah, because like I had eaten over 2,000 milligrams of stuff before in one shot and still didn't get high. Yet the time that I got too high was just from 2 cookies.
Damien's cookies?
No, actually, it was when we were still over at Vandu.
Okay.
I think it was Mary's cookies.
And how did you not like that experience?
Who likes throwing up besides a bulimic? Like nobody likes throwing up. It was awful.
A purge is seldom enjoyed.
Although I did get a good sleep once I was done puking.
Okay.
But otherwise, I have had fine experiences. Like
so
either they didn't do enough for me, or I got like a good sleep. But I've only had that one bad experience.
Most people on their journey to experience edibles, it's not marked on the package.
No, that's a 260 one.
Well, that's a good reason not to mark it on the package. Our cookies are marked what they are here. We try to make sure people understand.
There's a sign that says what they are and what they cost.
And we do treat each person as an individual. We take time with everybody. Anybody who appears naive or whatever, we identify quickly and make sure that they're properly informed.
Well, and I have to say, I've already said it to you, but I love how many, well, not kids, but teenagers, I guess, or young adults are buying weed for their parents here, and vice versa. There's parents buying weed for their kids here, and I love that.
I haven't seen any of that.
No, I absolutely love it.
I hope that you're properly IDing these people that you're calling kids.
Yes, when they got ID'd when they got signed.
We're going by the 2002 Senate report and what is absolutely reasonable, which is that if someone is over the age of 16, they get to access cannabis through this retail outlet to protect those young people from the absolute serious risk of buying, whatever they're going to buy on the underground marketplace. So that's something we've talked about a fair bit on the show already. I haven't noticed anybody myself that looks under 18 here.
No. Well,
you're talking 18 as a kid.
Yeah.
Next time you see that, point that out to me, because those people, if they appear to be under the age of 18, we are IDing them.
Parents that come with their kids too.
Parents coming with kids, that's fine.
And I love that.
And yeah, that's a real good topic there that I'm willing to defend anytime. It's a much safer environment. I thought it was a fly, but it's a thing off of what you're smoking there. So look at that. That's amazing. I don't know if you can see that at home. It is not a fly.
Right there.
That is not a what? That is a fly.
Just like when you thought the dirty dishes were clean, you need glasses.
That's a weird fly. Did you see that? It was just floating there and it wasn't moving, responding to my...
It's probably getting high.
It was getting high. That's exactly what's happening.
I think you need glasses, sir.
There are times when glasses are... Okay, so what do we got? We got a little more time here. I'm going to get to this.
I feel like there was something I wanted to say, but I forget.
Anytime you want to say something, you are the guest. This is your segment of the show.
Okay.
So we've been here at our dispensary here. We have a variety of things for people. We have hot food Thursdays and Sundays,
CBD
provided
Thursdays,
by some amazing donators. And we have topicals, we have suppositories, we have a wide range of different concentrates. We have a number of different edibles in many different forms.
We have olive oil, cooking butter, honey.
Which I really like. Seeds. We should mention that there's seeds here available. We have professionally packaged seeds from mainstream seed providers for under $1 a seed. There's no seed over $1 a seed here. I love that. I love that we have cooking oil available for people because more and more people are starting to use it in their cooking. You can put it on your toast. You can cook your eggs in it. You can, there's so many different ways that you can consume cannabis that way. I think we're serving the needs that are there. Like we could use more CBD cannabis.
Yes, definitely. We need.
That's something we could use some more of. I think
we're
working on that.
Since we ran out.
Doug and Michelle?
Michelle goes AC/DC.
Oh, she grows AC/DC. I see.
I didn't know that that was a CBD strain.
We'll find a CBD. We have had some, and we're gonna get more.
And it was very popular. It sold out.
Well, that's the one thing that I can think of that we don't
well,
have
it was such a good
as
deal.
much.
It was $3 a gram.
Well,
Right?
all of the
Of course I was
weed is a
gonna sell
good deal.
Well, yes.
And I've heard there's CBD. We don't pay expensive prices for cannabis because we can't, and you know.
When I love when people look
I mean,
all, like,
you know,
confused.
I think what we're paying is expensive, but
I love when people look
you know,
confused and they're like, "What's going on here? Why is it so cheap?"
I know we spent the first month trying to explain to people that this is not crappy tumbled weed or anything. This is like good weed. I'll only have good weed here because with a daily user, not only can it not be expensive, but it has to be good. If you're trying to offset the use of opioids and other things, your edibles have to be strong. Your cannabis has to be good. You don't want people smoking large amounts of swaggy, tumbled, flipping carbon. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to
exactly.
be
You
good.
shouldn't have to smoke 50 fucking joints to feel something.
Exactly. So, you know, that's always been part of the mission here, is to make sure that the products that we have are high quality. We have
Well,
high
I love
quality
that, because
extracts.
I've always said, being somebody with a high tolerance, even $5 a gram wasn't necessarily affordable for me because of how much I smoke.
And most of the $5 gram that's out there, if there is any at all, you know. So, but that's okay. I mean,
I love that we have a variation in price.
what else?
Literally from $1 to $6 now.
What else is out there is none of my business. People can do whatever they want. But what we as a group of the Serious Hope Society, the Healing Wave Dispensary, what we're all about is just making sure that the community gets access in ways that allows it to do the job that it can do in solving this issue with the opioid epidemic and healing the community at large, because we have a lot of mental health issues, a lot of depression, a lot of homelessness, people sleeping on the sidewalks. It's not a pretty sight out here. And so that this community needs to heal. And I think that having easy access to cannabinoids that are, you know, in the high quality concentrates and edibles and flowers that are needed will heal this community. So,
well, and honestly, every community needs that.
Yeah, this needs to happen in every
because
community.
Just because people look fine, just because people look like they're functioning in life, doesn't mean that they necessarily are. Everybody's dealing with some kind of trauma,
for sure.
some kind of shitty thing that happened to them in life at some point.
Yeah, and most big cities also have areas like this in, you know, even medium-sized communities. But, you know, the governments are not all putting up obstacles. We're not fighting with all of them at all. In fact, we're here and have come this far much because of one particular councillor in Vancouver. Well, I mean, somebody was going to take it and run with it because it was really being evident that cannabis was working here. But Rebecca Bly put forward a motion June 26, 2019, that was passed unanimously by mayor and council to allow for low barrier access to cannabinoids to address the opioid crisis. And there was a miscommunication with the licensing department that was not aware of that when we did a year later get this storefront. And so we've been trying to get one side of City Hall to properly communicate with the other side of City Hall about their support for us. And just in between this show and last show, we got this letter from Rebecca Bly. There's Rebecca there. And do you want to read it?
Sure.
Are you capable with your
cannabis
cough going on there?
That's why I put it down. That one's making me cough. Do you want me to read that whole part?
Yes, absolutely. Who it's to. She's addressed this to
City Council, city staff, and partners in the provincial and federal government. I am writing to express my formal support for a number of businesses in the downtown east side of the city of Vancouver, including the Healing Wave and the High Hope Society, among others, who are seeking exemptions from senior government to continue their operations as cannabis retail providers as they attempt to address the ongoing opioid emergency through harm reduction and substitution services. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen the opioid emergency in British Columbia grow to new heights and take record amounts of lives in our community. The tragic circumstances of the pandemic are ravaging our at-risk communities, especially in the downtown east side. And as a city, we must be taking any action we can to protect our most vulnerable.
Want me to read a paragraph?
I'm-
Anytime you want to break, go ahead.
A number of businesses providing essential harm reduction in the downtown east side have been faced with significant pushback from both landlords and the city. The Serious Hope Society and Healing Wave is a non-profit cannabis retail store at 157 East Cordova Street. She just
Nope. There's a West Cordova.
she didn't. I know, but she didn't put East. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, she just
Yes.
put Cordova.
The store is run by
There's
Neil
a few inaccuracies. This is also a
Spell your last
for-profit.
name wrong too.
This is, there's a few inaccuracies in there. The other one is where she says it's a non-profit. The Serious Hope Society and the Cannabis Substitution Program are non-profits, but the Healing Wave is a collaboration with a for-profit, although it's low markup and what we're trying to do here.
The store is run by Neil Magnuson, who previously operated the Cannabis Substitution Project from the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, VANDU, office earlier this year. Well, for the last several years. For medically seeking patrons as an alternative to illicit opioids. He has since incorporated the Cannabis Substitution Project into the Healing Wave premises and continues to service over 200 patrons who seek the below market price cannabis as an alternative to opioids.
See, there's another inaccuracy. We're serving over 200 people with the Cannabis Substitution Program for free. We're allowing now over 1,500 members of the Healing Wave Dispensary to have access to low-cost cannabis.
Yeah. Over the past few months, I have been in conversation with John Conroy, who has been retained by the Healing Wave as legal counsel, as they seek to work with the provincial and federal government to become legally licensed or achieve an exemption to supply for medical purposes to community in need. If you want to read it, that's too much.
The Serious Hope Society has been supported in a letter by Dr. M.J. Malloy, the Canopy Growth Professor of Cannabis Science at UBC and a researcher at the BC Centre on Substance Abuse. Dr. Malloy engages in research surrounding the benefits of cannabis in alleviating the overdose emergency, and has highlighted that cannabis can act as a substitute for opioids for those most at risk to opioid overdose, those living with addiction or chronic pain. Dr. Malloy emphasizes that the research in Vancouver has identified the lower chances of illicit opioid use in those using cannabis, and that those using cannabis were more likely to stay in medical treatment for opioid usage. Dr. Malloy also emphasized the barriers to those in the downtown east side that they face in accessing medical cannabis, and that Mr. Magnuson's Cannabis Substitution Project addresses this gap by providing essential harm reduction, the removal of which would increase the risk faced by those participating in the project who are most at risk. Mr. Magnuson is also a contributor to a variety of cannabis research projects in Vancouver, including those at UBC. As they are illegally selling cannabis without a medical or recreational sales license, their landlord has posted an eviction notice effective August 31st last month. On September 16th, the Serious Hope Society and Healing Wave sent a formal request to the federal government for a temporary federal ministerial exemption by the Minister of Health under the authority of the Cannabis Act to legally allow the sale of below-market cannabis at their current location for medical purposes. Such an exemption would remove the legal responsibility of the landlord to serve a notice of eviction to the Healing Wave, allowing them to remain at 157 East Cordova. As the Serious Hope Society and Healing Wave are a non-profit retail providing an essential harm reduction service during two separate public health emergencies, I am fully supportive that they receive this temporary exemption and that the City of Vancouver and Province of British Columbia refrain from any enforced eviction or legal action against Neil Magnuson, the Serious Hope Society, the Healing Wave, or the landlords of 157 East Cordova Street. In addition to Neil Magnuson's operations, the High Hopes Research Society is another nonprofit operating in the downtown east side that has faced significant obstacles in operating with a legal license. High Hopes provides access to up to 10 grams of cannabis a month at no cost in a community-based well-being program to manage the medical symptoms of marginalized members. The High Hope Society have submitted over 60 letters of support from members of the community who live and work in the downtown east side, including from those working in cannabis research locally, health experts within the BC CDC, and members of the Provincial Green Party. As their deadline to respond to the province is coming up shortly, a letter of support can have a positive impact in their petition to the province, with the hope that their future operations can continue unencumbered. Both the Serious Hope Society and the High Hope Society are addressing the opioid emergency in our most vulnerable communities by providing cannabis as a substitute to dangerous illicit opioids. Though their operations are not technically legal and do not meet the current requirements for medical cannabis supply, their essential harm reduction services are helping to alleviate the risk faced by those who use illicit opioids to address addiction or other medical symptoms. And they are backed up by a strong, growing research base and medical background. I strongly support the efforts of both the Serious Hope Society and High Hope Society to gain exemptions from the provincial and federal government so their operations can continue legally and save lives in our most impacted communities facing dual public health emergencies. I hope staff and fellow councillors will also lend their support to their ongoing efforts, and that the province and federal government will proceed by extending their support for such businesses providing an essential medical service. Sincerely, Rebecca Bly, and also Jean Swanson, councillors of Vancouver City.
Nice.
So yeah,
I had no idea the High Hope Society was giving out weed too. Like, I knew they got Mike's cookies down at OPS.
that's what I think they have.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I know they give out Mike's cookies. I don't know what else they do there.
So either
So
she was maybe
she's had to go a little bit clandestine about her, like low key, since that spontaneous raid at the little market that they had there, right? So the High Hopes Society, they had a little table set up at one of the local markets on the downtown east side where they were providing cannabis high dose edibles at a cost. A minimal cost that was used to pay for the people working at the table and to give stipends to people, all right back into the community. But the VPD, just on a casual walkthrough, took notice of the table. When they took notice, the two people that were working at the table disappeared. So now they're left with a table full of cannabis edibles with, prices, I guess. And so that prompted, a big investigation or, and they later, I think, apologized. But the High Hopes was kicked out of the market for that. The organizer of the market wouldn't let them be there anymore. And so they kind of went a little bit low key on what they were doing with helping people with this, although they're still the High Hopes Foundation.
Sad.
And
there's so much worse things going on down here.
Oh my goodness, it's not. There's nothing bad about having high dose edibles available.
Exactly, what we are doing and what they are doing should not be what's being stopped.
John
the hard drugs out there is what should be being stopped. The stuff that's killing people is what should be stopped.
Well, but yeah, exactly.
So I find it very infuriating.
Well, John's point with us is with the federal government that okay, I guess they're contravening the Cannabis Act by not having a license to sell cannabis and not using the licensed producers. We use cannabis that's tested by us or from trusted sources. But, that crime of not having a license to sell cannabis pales in comparison to the greater crime of people are dying. They're dying out here. So, yeah,
and that, to me, should be like a human rights violation. What they are trying to shut us down, should be a human rights violation.
Absolutely. I mean, you've heard me rant numerous times about how crazy this whole thing is.
And I've ranted about it several times myself.
I know. Feel free to rant. If you got something to say, you want to say it, now's the time. I mean,
well, it is infuriating. It's like, because they can't figure out how to do things properly. They have to stop the people that have figured it out. So you want to kill a bunch of fucking people?
It's more corrupt than that.
It drives me crazy. It's just, I will never understand it.
It makes no sense.
No.
I've said that all along.
Oh, but it's been legalized. No, it hasn't. It was legalized for the government.
Unless you consider sense to be money, it makes no sense.
The world sadly is lacking.
This is all about money, basically. And a lack of, like, a disdain for those that end up in poverty.
Well, and I fully admit, I have never voted because I have no faith in the government whatsoever anyway. It doesn't really seem to matter who the hell ends up in office.
There's not much to vote for.
No, there's never big enough fucking changes that actually help the people. Sure, there's some shit that helps some people, but that's it.
Yeah, the voting system has been highly corrupted.
And so, I don't waste my time.
It's a group of different, puppets. And if one of them just happened to get in that wasn't one of those three main puppets that are already, like, obviously affected by the corporate agenda, then the one that got in, which they couldn't, because
I would love to have a government. They would be
corrupted. They would be corrupted. Yeah. Like, this is what we've got going on here: is that we are kidnapped by the financial elite that are taking advantage of us. They're exploiting us. They're gleaning most of our energy and value from us.
They make money on poverty.
They make money on all this. That's the whole issue. The solutions that are being suggested for these opioid crisis are about putting more money into the pharmaceutical bank accounts. That's the solutions that they're coming up with, because they're all part of this same fucking scam here. And there is nobody to vote for, because whatever government gets in is going to be in the pockets of these corporations again, no matter what. They will be bribed or threatened or removed if they don't, toe the line. That's clear as can be. We've been kidnapped here. And so, yeah.
Well, to me, if politicians were actually for the people, they would survive on welfare. If you're going to claim that's enough for a human being to survive on, you should survive on that.
We should have relatively financially independent people that really just care about putting back into their communities and are willing to stand up to the corporate agenda.
Yeah.
That's what should be going on here. If they were limited in their powers so that they couldn't even make laws that protect these corporate greedy bastards in the first place, and if they were transparent in what they were doing so that they don't get to have meetings behind closed doors with expensive lobbyists who know how to threaten and bribe, and if they were accountable for what they did, so that if they do sell us out like they're selling us out with this cannabis issue, like setting up their own little private cartel and keeping the price artificially inflated so that the billionaires can make more billions off the backs of the people who just want to smoke a joint of weed that they should be able to get easy for like $10 a pound, because that's what everything else sells for out in the world. So
can you imagine? That'd be awesome.
Isn't it horrible that it's not?
I would just cuddle weed all night.
Only because of what we've been through, right? Only because of what we've been through. If it was normal decades ago, cannabis would have been the thing that everybody knew was a good thing to have, cheap as can be because it's easy to grow. It finds its margin. Right, like enough people will grow it to supply the demand, and then the price will be, based on bringing it to market. That's how market forces are supposed to work.
Well, and to prove the point though of the fact that people need affordable access is even with our insanely low prices
compared to theirs.
Well, some of our regulars still come in sometimes asking for roaches or whatever because they've spent their money. Because welfare is not enough to live on.
Life is expensive.
I don't even know if they're all on welfare. Some of them probably aren't. So I don't know how they all survive. I don't know how they make their money, but they, a lot of them, as soon as they make money, they come right here.
The government has proven that cannabis is easy to produce. They've got licensed producers with millions of pounds sitting around that they don't even know what to do with. You can grow cannabis easy. It produces more biomass than just about anything else. I mean, compare it to wheat, for example, a little tiny little stick of nothing compared to this great big flipping tree in the same amount of time with the same amount of work, taking up similar amounts. Well, in the amount of space it takes up, maybe you would get 1,000 little sticks of wheat. But, it's just ridiculous that all of this is artificially being controlled because they just can't let the value go. It's too bad we had to go through this. We should have, cannabis flowers available in a bin at your grocery store that, were just sort of lopped off the top of a field of cannabis that was growing and put into bins, and, $10 a pound for the good stuff. And yeah, you should probably be able to buy some really nice cannabis produced by connoisseurs in expensive grow rooms with all kinds of fans and lights and fertilizers and, expensive soils and all the rest of the stuff that it goes into having connoisseur weed. And so, yeah, you should, maybe pay $5 a gram for some really, really good stuff. And everybody's making a good buck. And, but down from there to what it should be when it's just like a vegetable or a fruit. It's, they carefully pick the grapes and the cherries and put them out there, and they could just as easily have a bunch of tops of some flowers that were growing in a similar amount of space in a similar amount of time for a similar amount of money. And, it should be a similar price to that. But the only reason it's not is corruption. And that's what we're living with. That's what we're fighting against. That's why I have to have this show that, taxes me and, makes me get mad and, because it's just not right what's going on. And and we're trying to make it right. So I can't imagine anybody better than you to, to help with what we're doing here, because you are so connected to this community, and this is family to you and so personal to you. And the approach that you have to it with your, positive energy is just, you're the right person for the job. So I'm really glad to have you. I'm glad you found us, and that, we've merged over these years. It's been a good 3 years, I think, of you, working side by side, putting those packages together, and now making this work as manager of the store here. So yeah, thank you. It's been fun. Let's keep having fun, and I look forward to what we're going to do in the near future here, you and me and the rest of the team here, and all of you at home that are
Because I
doing your part.
believe we will be here for Christmas. That is why I hung up that fucking pot stocking.
Nice.
I believe we are going to be here.
I do too.
I have a little Santa jacket
I do
I plan
too.
on wearing maybe the whole month of December.
I opened this in good faith, and I opened it believing that we were going to be able to succeed and thrive. And yes, I think we'll be here for Christmas and long beyond. We're about to celebrate Thanksgiving. We're going to have our first staff volunteer dinner coming up here shortly for Thanksgiving.
Good, because I don't have any Thanksgiving
and
plans.
Christmas is, it's true for so many of us.
Some Christmas
I'm
balls.
sure we'll do all of that fun stuff.
Some of the gummy balls on
We'll do all that fun stuff, because that's the point. We got issues to deal with, but we're having as much fun as we can. And so thank you, Jen, for helping out with that. And we'll talk again later on. I'm sure we'll see you in future episodes running around the store if nothing else.
Yes,
I'm sure there'll be lots else.
Money for my horseback riding.
Check out her Facebook page. She's our social media person that reports daily on what goes on here, takes pictures and all the rest of it. There's kittens involved, so
So you want to come.
So you want to check that out. Anytime there's kittens involved,
It's Jen Nelson on Facebook.
All right. Thank you very much, Jen.
Smoking a joint, like always.
We will
all right.
we'll continue on here to close the show off.
But you have that global news clip.
Do we have that?
I got that. If you want it.
Okay. Which one is that?
Jesse Lavoie has been using marijuana since 2016 when he was injured on the job as a prison guard.
I was involved in a very violent incident. I used cannabis medicinally for my PTSD and physical injuries. And about a year ago, I overcame all that and switched to just recreational. So now I love the plant. It's helped me through my dark times.
Now Lavoie wants to be able to grow his own pot to cut down on costs, a move the federal government legalized in 2018, but the Manitoba government banned.
The federal government legalized up to 4 plants being grown at home. What I want to see is Manitobans having the federal right that's been granted to them.
So Lavoie is taking it to court. On Wednesday, he filed an application for a constitutional challenge against Manitoba's rules.
People love having gardens. They like making their own wine. They like making their own beer. So why can't we grow our own cannabis safely and responsibly?
And he's banking on a precedent set last year. Quebec also has a ban on homegrown pot, but in October 2019, a Quebec judge ruled the provincial law was unconstitutional. The government is now appealing the case, but it's one Lavoie thinks will help his fight here.
Our research to date has been, largely put on that precedent that was set in Quebec. I am prepared to go all the way.
The Manitoba government refused to comment, saying the case is now before the courts. And while Lavoie is just getting the process going, he's got one message for the government.
Let's make this quick and get Manitobans growing.
Brittany Greenslade, Global News.
Okay.
It's just ludicrous and appalling, that these people, these public servants, without any justification, think that they can come and tell us people that we can't grow plants, or you can only grow 4 plants. That's ludicrous too. In New Brunswick, they're not even in Quebec, they're not allowed to grow any plants. The best plant that you would want to grow. Cannabis is one of the most valuable things you could grow, and it's only because it's valuable that your public servant thinks that you shouldn't be able to grow it. Valuable to us, human beings. It's something that benefits us. And we have servants. When was the last time you paid a servant who decided to restrict your ability to get something of value. What kind of a servant is that? It's not a servant of yours, I'll tell you. So yeah, I'm a little upset about this whole thing, as always. These people are exposing themselves for the corrupt bastards that they are. And hopefully it won't be too long into the future where it all comes crashing down, because running protection rackets, abusing your power, criminally misusing public funds, violating the rights of free people, these are not things that they should be getting away with. And we should make sure as people that they don't get away with much more of this for much longer. So there's another great example of the corruption that runs so deep in our country here, where public servants are using our money to battle citizens about the right to grow some plants that they might be growing to help them sleep, to deal with pain, to get off of opioids, to deal with the depression of COVID-19. Nobody's growing these plants so that they can do damage to their neighbor. Nobody's growing any of these marijuana plants so that they can hurt people with them. They're all growing them because they're of value to them. They're going to help them in a huge variety of potential ways. And there is nothing about growing cannabis plants that involves the need of government to come in and tell you that you can't do it, or you can only grow 4 of them, or they can only be this tall, or you can only get this much weight, because there is no justification of any sort in any way, shape, or form for telling people that they can't grow those plants. No one is being harmed, no intent to cause damage in any way, shape, or form, just the intent to be benefited. Not our public servants' role to tell us we can't be benefited from growing some plants. How ridiculous has this world gotten? I'll tell you. Well, until next week, we'll stew on all of this, and we'll see where we are a week from now, if we're still headed to court with our landlord to satisfy a city licensing department that wants to try to prevent people from getting access to cannabis for the opioid crisis. We'll see where we're at. We'll see where we're at with the federal government and whether they're going to approve our application to be able to do what we're doing here and save the lives of the people in our communities here, and whether those people in their ivory towers back there that don't have a clue will figure out a way to deny that, without any justification. We'll see about all these things as we move forward and ask more questions and maybe get more answers than the ones we've been getting so far, because the answers we get so far is just the obvious results of the behaviors being engaged in here, which is putting up barriers and trying to restrict access and trying to make money off of people and to control a natural plant from people who should be free agents in whatever they want to do with the plants on this planet. Coming up on Pot TV, we have tomorrow Greg Williams with From Under the Influence. We have Thursday Morning Glory with BC Bud Gal, whatever time she decides to get up and do some wake and bake with y'all. On Friday is How's It's Growing with Johnny Bud, who should be How It's Selling now. It's probably been all through curing and everything. But check out what Johnny's doing. On Saturday, high noon, Boss Lissa and her co-hosts, whoever they may be these days. Is Miles still involved in?
There's a picture of him in the studio.
There's a picture of him in the studio. So I don't know who the co-hosts are these days. Chris is here. Maybe he's there Saturdays. I don't know. But anyway, check out Boss Lissa and her crew and what she has going on for high noon. And Sundays. Anything going on Sundays?
No.
No, you get Sunday off. You can go back and watch some of the older episodes.
Still be something to watch.
Always something to watch on Pot TV. Monday, it's the 420 Lifestyle with Carly Marley and BC Bud Gal. And I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode of the THC show. We'll see what truths are happening next week and whether there's any hope for us and if there's anything we can change along the way. So go out there and do what you can, because it's fun to do that. It's important that we all do things to try to wrestle the power back for ourselves. And the most important thing is to stay calm, be nice to each other, and have as much fun as you can.
Mayor Kennedy Stewart's voicemail at the City of Vancouver. If you'd like to Carly Marley. Oh, and I'm BC Podcast. Sorry. We are going to be doing a phone protest. Did you want to get stoned? Would you like a dab? A bong rip? I'm sure there will be doobies on the way. 419. I'm going to get my dab ready.
Fight politically by having the Vancouver City Council give us an emergency license to continue to do business because we carry products that you can't get anywhere else. And a lot of people, patients and regular customers, just people who smoke cannabis for recreational purposes or as a substitute for dangerous alcohol, tobacco, or other things, they need access to these products, and it's not fair that they can't get them, and it makes no sense to shut them down. It's hurting people to shut them down, and it hurts no one to allow them to remain open.
It's a really messed up situation because a lot of people keep saying, you know, well, it's legal now.
I'm just sad. I've been there almost 2 years. The amount of people that come in with such positive words and impact, it's just a sad day right now. I don't know, it's a community. It's more than just the marijuana industry. It's more than just making that money. Yeah.
The jobs are there for them, but we just are being forced to close.
The mayor had an opioid task force open hearing, and we went and presented the information that shows that dispensaries literally save lives. You know, the more dispensaries that there are functional in areas, the more that opioid deaths come down.
We've been applying for licenses again and again and again, and they refuse us. They won't even give us the proper form to it. And yet somehow other people are being given a license. Yet whenever we ask, the licensing process is closed. I think we should start making some phone calls. Yeah. I'm going to do a dab so I can be nice and high when I call the mayor. Hi there. My name is... Oh, what happened, you guys?
You fucked up,
I fucked up. We got to be polite. I'm calling because I wanted to let you know that I'm in complete disagreement with you closing the existing dispensaries and threatening arrests to do this kind of thing during the opioid crisis when it has been shown that having dispensaries in the area helps decrease opioid overdoses. It's just crazy. It's such a waste of taxpayer resources, all the people that you're putting out of work, and I urge you to please allow dispensaries to get emergency licenses so that they continue to operate. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good one. No, what you said, and I hope you have a good one. So, one down. You guys, now it's your turn.
I was like, beep, beep, beep. I'm just calling on behalf of the whole dispensary shutdown. I'm just hoping you can please reconsider your decision and give emergency licenses out to the community so we could all stick together. Thank you. Have a good day. Kind of panicked, but...
Nice. Good.
Yeah. I would hope so.
Then you're all warmed up for your bong rip. Ew, ew.
What flavor are those?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
No. I was not expecting that.
Good? Yeah.
Oh my god, I literally feel like I'm gonna pass out. This is so fucking gross.
Just look at the lollipop.
Just move your hand for a second. Here, wait, I'll bedcam it.
What?
No, I can't do, no. Is that...
This is on live on YouTube and Facebook. Pot TV. This channel on iTunes podcast and on...
Is it that foggy outside, or am I just...
I'm scared of everything now. It's just weed. I literally just... That wasn't weed that scared me that much.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you, and still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good?
Yeah, laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And bye.